I don't care at all for the Harry and Meghan thing.
I think she's a malignant narcissist who is a truly terrible person.
She suffers from such a rare disorder of being unable to just be a human.
Meghan Markle's fairy tale birth story doesn't just sparkle, it cracks.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Candace Owens says it's not just polished, it's impossible.
In LA, because that was Meghan's dream.
2 epidurals, 2 hours home, a royal contradiction too big to ignore. And according to one hospital insider, that contradiction is only the beginning.
Make it end. Make it end. What is this?
Harry's memoir, Spare, painted the scene as idyllic. Meghan at Portland Hospital, candles glowing, wellness vibes, nitrous oxide in the air, and a child born into serenity.
Everything they do seems so manipulative, calculated, PR motivated, money motivated.
Then, just 2 hours later, the family was already back at Frogmore Cottage.
I just think she's crying for sympathy, playing the victim.
To the public, it sounded cinematic. To anyone who's been inside a delivery ward, it sounded like fiction.
You're never going to convince anyone that you're authentic.
You're right. You're
Have
right.
fun.
That's where the contradiction slams into view. Medical procedure versus PR narrative. And every time you pull on one thread, more unravel.
And there's also no sympathy to be granted for this lifestyle that she's chosen to live.
Fans online claimed the math simply didn't work. The drive from Portland Hospital to Frogmore Cottage can take up to an hour, which means that if Harry's account is taken literally, Meghan delivered, recovered, signed discharge papers, packed up, strapped the baby into a car seat, and left in about 60 minutes.
Like the gross disrespect to the intimacy and privacy of marriage and childbirth.
Commentators speculated that if true, it would set a new world record in obstetrics. Because in real life, childbirth is not a drive-through window. It's hours of monitoring, especially with an epidural. And Harry claimed there weren't 1, but 2. Here's where the insider voice cuts through the fairy tale. A former patient of Portland Hospital, who later spoke publicly, explained what 2 epidurals actually means. An epidural isn't like taking a second Tylenol, it's a catheter inserted into the spine. Once in place, it's simply topped up or adjusted. To claim 2 epidurals would require removing the line and reinserting it, a painful and highly unusual procedure, almost never done in the middle of labor unless something has gone wrong. Medical professionals cited in reports raised their eyebrows. Was Harry exaggerating for dramatic effect? Or had Meghan's story been polished into a version that bent reality? Candace Owens, never one to pull punches, seized on this gap. She argued that Meghan's royal story is riddled with details designed to make her look strong, serene, and unbothered, but that the contradictions reveal something more cynical. If a duchess can casually rewrite the rules of labor and recovery, Owens said, what else has she rewritten? It wasn't just an attack on Meghan's credibility. It was an attack on the very idea that her narrative should be accepted at face value.
I appreciate what hard work looks like. I like working hard.
Well, according to their tax documents, they work 1 hour a week.
And I love being that busy.
Fans pushed it further. Memes compared Meghan's recovery time to leaving an Uber ride, and one viral post quipped, 2 epidurals, 2 hours, 2 unbelievable. Humor aside, the deeper problem is obvious. If the birth timeline itself doesn't line up, how much of the royal narrative can the public trust? That question, echoing through comment sections, podcasts, and insider discussions, sets the stage for a scandal where every detail becomes a clue, every contradiction a fracture in the crown's fairy tale. Meghan Markle has given 3 different reasons for why the press wasn't told about Archie's birth. First, she said she didn't want cameras blocking an emergency entrance. Later, she claimed the British tabloids were racist and didn't deserve a photo. Then came a third version, that the press was notified and simply didn't show up. 3 stories, 1 event, and none of them perfectly aligned. For fans who once bought into the royal fairy tale, this wasn't just confusing, it was unsettling. Because when a story keeps shifting, people start asking why. Inside the palace, protocol clashed against those shifting narratives. Royal tradition is clear. The reigning monarch must be notified the moment a royal goes into labor. Commentators speculated that if Meghan truly entered Portland Hospital under security protection, her officers would have been required to alert the Queen's private secretary. Reports suggest that didn't happen, and that detail sent shivers through royal watchers online. If protocol was broken, was it because Meghan wanted privacy, or because the version of events the palace received was different from the one the public was told? Fans online claimed this was the moment the contradictions stopped being harmless.
I'm searching for something to like about her, and it's so hard.
One viral Reddit thread compared Meghan's secrecy to Diana's infamous Panorama interview, where half-truths and behind-the-scenes negotiations shaped the narrative. Another post shared thousands of times read bluntly, "You can't rewrite centuries of protocol because it's inconvenient." The pressure wasn't just coming from tabloids anymore. It was now coming from ordinary people who felt shut out of a royal story they had been conditioned to see as a public event. Meanwhile, Portland Hospital's reputation was thrown into the spotlight. It's not an NHS ward with bustling emergency bays. It's a luxury private clinic, equipped with chandeliers, suites, and 24-hour private chefs. But here's the catch. There is no emergency department. If complications arise, patients are transferred elsewhere. Medical insiders highlighted this as another contradiction. Harry's memoir spoke of emergency-style pain management, multiple epidurals, gas, speed, but Portland's very structure isn't designed for those conditions at scale. Commentators noted that Portland is a boutique experience, not a trauma center, which left a glaring question. Were we hearing a spa version of a story that should have sounded clinical? Candace Owens capitalized on that gap. On her show, she said Meghan's fairy tale of scented candles and spa-like serenity wasn't just tone-deaf, it was deceptive. "You don't turn a geriatric pregnancy into a yoga retreat," she said sharply, referencing the medical term for mothers over 35. Owens argued that if Meghan truly faced risks like preeclampsia, the idea of bouncing on birthing balls under candlelight wasn't just unrealistic, it was reckless. That soundbite spread fast, clipped into TikToks and reaction videos that gained hundreds of thousands of views. Fans and critics alike debated not just Meghan's story, but the bigger issue Owens had raised. When do public figures cross the line between privacy and fabrication? Each layer of contradiction drove the scandal higher. Meghan's statements clashed with royal protocol, Harry's anecdotes clashed with medical reality, Portland's design clashed with the emergency imagery, and Owens' commentary clashed with the palace's carefully curated silence. The result wasn't just tension, it was combustion. And the story was about to hit its most dangerous detail yet.
Reality is she's a grifter. Fake it till you make it.
The Brits are onto you. America's onto you. The world at large is onto you.
Preeclampsia, the condition that can turn childbirth from miracle to nightmare in minutes. Preeclampsia. The word itself sounds clinical, almost distant. But for mothers, it's a thunderclap. High blood pressure that can trigger seizures, strokes, even organ failure. And once it strikes, the only cure is to deliver the baby and then keep the mother under relentless monitoring. According to the discussion Candace Owens amplified, Meghan Markle's story of a 2-hour discharge collides head-on with this condition. Because if preeclampsia was truly in play, there is no swift return home. There is only magnesium drips, blood pressure cuffs, and nurses tracking vitals hour by hour. That's where the insider's voice cuts through the noise. A former Portland hospital patient described her own postpartum battle with preeclampsia. Her blood pressure skyrocketed to 230 over 130. To keep her alive, doctors pushed magnesium sulfate, a treatment so brutal it burns as it courses through your veins. She wasn't strolling out with candles glowing. She was confined, connected to monitors, surrounded by specialists who knew one misstep could mean catastrophe. The account paints a picture of survival, not serenity. Fans online shared her story widely, pointing out that Meghan's glossy narrative doesn't resemble the lived reality of those who faced the same diagnosis. Commentators speculated that this was the tipping point. If Meghan really battled preeclampsia, why was her recovery portrayed like a spa getaway? One medical blogger wrote, "You don't Instagram your way out of preeclampsia, you survive it." That line resonated, turning up in YouTube comment sections and Twitter threads. The implication was sharp, that Meghan's version wasn't simply inaccurate. It was dismissive of the mothers who had endured the condition in its raw, frightening reality. Then came the travel timeline. Within weeks of Archie's birth, Meghan and Harry were on planes to Ibiza, Paris, New York, and Toronto. For fans, the contradiction was glaring. Preeclampsia requires rest, monitoring, and stability, but the Sussexes' calendar read like a jet-set diary. Reports suggested that if Meghan truly had the condition, those flights would have posed enormous risks. One insider quoted in the Times even said, "The schedule doesn't match the diagnosis." For critics, this wasn't nitpicking. It was evidence that the fairy tale had slipped into fabrication. Candace Owens seized on this as well. On her podcast, she argued that Meghan's contradictions don't just undermine her own credibility, they insult every woman who has faced dangerous childbirths without palaces or PR teams to smooth over the rough edges. Fans online echoed the sentiment, posting side-by-side comparisons of Meghan's claims with medical discharge protocols. A viral meme read, "Epidural, Nando's, Ibiza, the new royal treatment plan." It was cutting, but it captured the absurdity that many felt. The revelations stacked up like dominoes. 2 epidurals that don't add up. A 2-hour discharge that doctors called impossible. A supposed preeclampsia diagnosis undercut by a non-stop travel schedule. And insider testimony that told a story not of candles and calm, but of survival and struggle. Each contradiction wasn't just a detail. It was another crack in a narrative that once seemed untouchable. And the deeper the crack spread, the closer the fairy tale came to collapse.
Able to just be a human. I've never seen this sort of. I've never seen someone that struggles to just give us like one strip of authenticity.
Sometimes it's the smallest details that blow a story apart. In Harry's memoir, one of those details is chicken. He claimed he slipped out of Portland Hospital at 2 a.m. to fetch Nando's for Meghan. But fans online were quick to point out a problem. Nando's shuts its doors at 11 p.m. sharp. Commentators speculated that either Harry misremembered or exaggerated, or the story had been massaged into a quirky anecdote. But when you layer that on top of impossible medical timelines, the cracks stop looking like quirks. They start looking like patterns. Then there's the secret elevator. Harry described a hidden passage that whisked them out of Portland unseen, almost like something from a royal spy novel. But when reporters contacted the hospital directly, staff flatly denied it. One insider, who gave birth at Portland herself, said, "There is no secret elevator. Everyone goes through the same corridors." That blunt contradiction spread like wildfire across forums and TikTok. Fans online joked that Harry must have confused a service lift with a Bond movie prop. But for critics, it was more fuel. Another detail that didn't survive contact with reality, even the doctor supposedly at the center of Archie's birth became disputed. Initial reports named Dr. Penelope Law. Later, conflicting accounts surfaced suggesting she hadn't been involved at all. Some outlets corrected themselves, others left the claim unverified. Fans online claimed this mismatch was explosive. If they can't even keep the doctor's name straight, what else was misreported? The tension wasn't just about Meghan's story anymore, it was about media complicity, how much of the Sussex fairy tale had been echoed uncritically by outlets desperate for royal exclusives. Candace Owens pounced on these inconsistencies. She argued that the memoir's strange anecdotes, the Nando's run, the laughing gas Harry supposedly inhaled, the phantom elevator, weren't just harmless embellishments. They were signals of a couple comfortable bending truth into performance. Clips of her commentary racked up millions of views. Fans echoed her disbelief, with one viral meme showing Harry in a chicken costume riding an elevator labeled fiction. It was funny, but it also captured a serious point. Every whimsical detail weakened the palace's credibility. The peak drama came when speculation turned toward what all of this meant for the monarchy itself. Commentators warned that if Meghan and Harry could recast something as serious as childbirth into a polished performance, then the institution's own to present truth was in jeopardy. After all, royal births aren't just family moments. They're historic events tied to lineage, succession, and public trust. Reports suggested palace insiders were quietly alarmed, though none would go on record. Fans online speculated that this silence was itself an answer, the crown choosing discretion over confrontation. By this point, the fairy tale Meghan once told had unraveled into a series of contradictions, medical impossibilities, logistical fictions, disputed doctors, and anecdotes that collapsed under scrutiny. The palace stayed quiet. Meghan stayed polished. But the louder the silence grew, the more people asked the question nobody at Buckingham wanted to answer. If this story doesn't line up, what other royal stories won't? The fallout from Meghan Markle's contradictions has rippled far beyond Portland Hospital. For fans once enchanted by the fairy tale, the doubts hit hard. Comment sections filled with anger and disbelief. Some defended Meghan fiercely, saying the scrutiny was unfair. But others pointed out that when public figures trade in polished narratives, the public has a right to question. One viral tweet summed it up. If she'll bend the truth about her child's birth, what won't she bend? It wasn't just criticism. It was disillusionment. In the media, Candace Owens' commentary amplified that disillusionment by hammering on inconsistencies, 2 epidurals, impossible discharge times, secret elevators, Owens reframed Meghan not as a victim of press cruelty, but as an architect of her own credibility crisis. Reports suggested her takedowns generated millions of views, outpacing even mainstream coverage. And while some critics accused Owens of exploiting Meghan's story, others argued she was simply saying what many insiders were too cautious to admit. The contrast was stark. Silence from royal spokespeople and thunder from media commentators. Then came the industry reaction. Commentators speculated that Meghan's credibility gap could jeopardize future projects. When Variety celebrated her as a Hollywood power player, fans flooded the comments with references to Portland Hospital. Even her rumored production deals faced scrutiny. "Studios don't want another Amber Heard situation," one podcast host quipped, drawing a parallel that spread quickly. Word is, executives quietly worry about reputational risk, not because of one birth story, but because of a pattern of contradictions. The entertainment business runs on perception, and perception was shifting. The bigger cultural context cut even deeper. Royal watchers compared Meghan's contradictions to the cracks in other high-profile narratives, Oprah's interview with Lance Armstrong before his doping admission, or Beyoncé's flawless pregnancy imagery contrasted with her later struggles. Commentators suggested that Meghan's story revealed something larger about celebrity culture itself, how personal milestones are repackaged as myth even when reality doesn't match. Fans online claimed that if even childbirth can be turned into PR, then nothing is sacred anymore. And that's the irony. What should have been a private, deeply human moment, the birth of a child, became a lightning rod for questions about honesty, credibility, and performance. Meghan's supporters argue she had every right to guard her privacy. Critics argue she went further, reshaping the facts into something smoother. Candace Owens' role in dragging those contradictions into the spotlight ensured that the debate won't fade soon, because once a story this personal starts to unravel, it never quite stitches back together. The fairy tale may never fully collapse, but for millions, the crown on this story already looks cracked. And if the contradictions surrounding Archie's birth are this wide, the next chapter may be even harder for Meghan and Harry to control. So here's the question. If 2 epidurals and 2 hours home can shatter a royal narrative, what happens when the next contradiction drops? Subscribe so you're here when it does. Like this video if you think the truth deserves a spotlight, and don't miss what comes next, because the cracks in this fairy tale are only just beginning to spread.